Yo, what is going on everyone? Guiding Light here back with another first descendant video, and it has been a few days since I have uploaded, and that is because I have been working on leveling up and creating a build for this new weapon, and I did need to wait quite a while for the crystallization catalyst and all the materials. Now in this video, I want to go over what I believe to be the best scout rifle here in the first descendant, especially if you're looking for something early on or a legendary. It's not going to take very long to unlock this, and you don't have to go out and farm any ultimates or things like that to create a amazing weapon that can help you guys out through bosses and missions as well. Now, if you're the type of person that likes to rock a scout rifle, this is definitely one of the best ones out there. And it does not take very many resources in order to get to a really good spot where you can actually do really, really good damage with it. I also really enjoy bringing this into the intercept battles. If you guys have done a bunch of those, you know how the bosses, they always go into these immunity phases. You have to hit these very small crit points and certain parts of the boss in order to break them out. And sometimes you'll notice those full auto weapons, they just don't do the trick because they have too much recoil, not enough movement when you're trying to dodge all the attacks and things like that. And so this scout rifle can help out immensely in those intercept battles to be more pinpoint with your shots and to continuously hit crit spots. Another thing that's great about this scout is that it's also pretty good for mobbing as well. It has an extremely high fire rate, hip fire accuracy is very good. And I have also created builds where you can get the magazine size well over 40 rounds of mag. So even if you're trying to take this into a boss and just hit a crit spot and again, you can actually do that with this weapon as well. So there's a few different builds which I have started and created. One that's going to be sort of for missions, one that's for bossing, and then one for if you're just trying to basically lay into crit spots as well. Now this weapon is not leveled up all the way just yet, but I wanted to give you guys some insight as to some of the builds in which I have started. Now the good thing about this first build which you're watching here is the fact that it does have this mod on, which increases your max impact rounds. The one downside to this weapon I noticed when trying to clear missions, or if you're just trying to main the weapon and not switch to anything else, is that you don't start off with very much ammo in your inventory. This mod helps it so that you can have like almost double or triple the amount of ammo, and it solves this problem. Now, another thing I noticed with this weapon is that you do want to have as many fire rate up mods as you can. The higher the fire rate, the more DPS you're going to do. And I noticed that the recoil and the accuracy doesn't get affected very much. Now, the one downside I have noticed to this weapon so far is that it's not as good at taking down the elites as I would like. It definitely can still take down an elite in, under 10 seconds, between 5 and 10 seconds. But compared to my other weapons that I have put this many resources in, like 5 catalysts, 6 catalysts, it's just not to the point where I would expect it to be for taking down elites. However, this weapon does still offer some really good opportunities to do damage where other weapons can't. Now, with an assault rifle or even a tamer and things like that, you can do almost the same amount of damage, or you can even do a bit more damage than this weapon. But the downsides are that you don't have the mobility or the accuracy, so you're constantly having to unscope your weapon, hip fire, or just straight up miss shots. With this weapon, you don't really end up having to miss very often. And I noticed that it's one of the best weapons to take into void intercept battles. Now, it's not going to be your main run and gun weapon where you're going to take 99% of the enemies out with it. But the best part about this weapon is that when you do need to hit those pinpoint shots, you can just switch over to this and take out whatever it is that you need, whether it's a crit spot on a boss, whether it's just these molten rocks flying through. It's the most accurate weapon that you're going to have in your arsenal, and it does really good damage per each shot that you hit. The only downside I noticed to the weapon is that ammo capacity, but you can always turn that up with no issues. So in my opinion, it's a weapon that I always keep on me. I might use my assault rifle or a burst fire weapon for my main damage output, but then when the boss switches into certain phases, or if enemies are further away or I need to be more pinpoint with my shots, I'll switch over to that scout rifle for whatever else I need. Now, it's definitely one of the best secondary or backup weapons I think I've found. Obviously, a tamer or a assault rifle, it's always going to do more damage than just about anything else. Those ARs, some of them go up to over 700,000 DPS, but the problem with the ARs is that when it comes time to be accurate, you just simply don't have the accuracy. They have all the fire rate, they have all the clip size and the damage output for when you're trying to clear out mobs, but they just simply don't have the pinpoint shots that you need. Now, there are snipers out there which can do what this scout does. However, they're mostly ultimates. They take way more resources to level up, and in my opinion, they take a lot more skill and can be a bit annoying because you're only going to be able to take one shot out of the sniper. Then you usually have to wait 3 or 4 seconds before you can take another shot. You're constantly having to dodge damage and things like that. But with this scout rifle, it's almost like having a fully automatic sniper. You're not going to go crazy and have like a 50 caliber round where you're able to take down one boss in a single shot or anything like that. But if you ever need to be consistently pinpoint with your shots or go after crit spots from a far distance, this is by far the best weapon for that. Another thing I noticed about this weapon is that it can be built so many different ways. If you want to build for mobbing, you can build one very easily. If you want one for ad clear, you can switch up to that as well. And then if you want one for just purely hitting crit spots, you can switch to that build as well. And it's very, very easy to go ahead and create these builds. I found on other weapons, if you want to switch around from bossing to mobbing to things like that, it actually does take a bit more resources and it's a lot harder to build out than a weapon like this. So you may notice the DPS fluctuating quite a bit based off the rolls and things that I have on the weapon. I'm going to show you guys my 3 different scout rifles that I have and show you guys the different perks I have and where they benefit more, so you can try to decide which perks you want. Now, in my opinion, it's good to carry 2 of these, one for just taking into bosses and one for pretty much everything else, but it's up to you. I'll show you guys the perks and rolls that I have on the weapons. So this was the best roll I was able to get for my mobbing or mission running scout. Now, it definitely could be a little bit better, but I went through so many resources to try to get this role that eventually I sort of just had to settle with what I could get. Overall, it is a really, really good role, but for when going into bosses, you will want to try and get something else, something with this bonus firearm ATK versus Colossus. And you always want to try and get the gold variations of these perks as well. The craziest thing about this scout is it only has a 95k DPS compared to my other one, which has 115,000. But when going into bosses, this one with 95k DPS does twice as much damage as the one with 115k, just simply because of the perks that are on it. So sometimes when trying to decide which role is better or which gun is best for you, you do need to do some real life testing, because I don't think that the game calculates all of these perks into it and all of the different variations of the perks. So you're never going to know exactly which one might be better in which situation until you really go in and test it out. Because even though this one says it does 95k DPS compared to the other one that does, 110 or 115, when in a Colossus fight, you'll notice that this is far more superior than the one with 115k DPS. So these perks are extremely important, and they will really affect whether or not you want to use it in certain missions or if you just want to take it into bosses. Now, overall, this is still a really great role with the rounds per magazine being 11%, and that's how I've actually gotten the ability to get like 45 round mags on this scout, which is always going to be really, really good in a boss. So it really is about finding that perfect roll, and you can always come into the weapon transmission station and keep re-rolling and re-rolling until you find something that's perfect. But in my opinion, it is good to carry maybe 2 or 3 of these scouts because it's so good, and then you can have a roll that's fit for just about every mission. So overall, it's definitely one of my favorite weapons in the game. I highly suggest going out and getting it. Now, this is only halfway built up. Let me know if you guys want me to make another video when the gun is completely fully spec'd out with 10 catalysts in it to see just how different it is. Now, overall, I think it's a great weapon due to the fact that it offers so much versatility compared to some of the other weapons. You can actually stay further away, do good damage, and you can actually stay behind cover. Whereas with assault rifles and things like that, you're constantly having to move around, constantly having to be really, really close up to the enemy because of the damage fall off. And so overall, I think it offers a better playstyle, at least when going into certain missions. Now, it's not going to be something you take into every single mission or that you dominate with across every mission, but it's always something that I have on me if I ever need to do that pinpoint damage or if I'm going into a long range boss. So hopefully this quick review helps you guys out to figure out whether or not you want to put the resources into it or not. And I will catch you in the next one. Peace.